During this quick video, what I wanted to take you through was some pre-manufactured tinder types. Now, when I'm teaching survival, a lot of the time I'm doing a couple of things. I'm giving people some layers of redundancy in terms of fire lighting capability downwards, in terms of down into the primitive technology space. That is because as a former combat survival instructor, it's always been very, very important to me that we're able to make fire with nothing. For example, if we escape from a prisoner of war camp, we can all expect ourselves to be essentially butt naked. You have no equipment, and you start from your primitive basis of knowledge to develop strategies to achieve all of your basic life support requirements, fire being one of them. As you work forwards from that sort of baseline of capability, we look at making sure that when we're in the field, we have within our fire component of our survival kit the appropriate items to make fire reliably. Testing yourself with primitive technology is not a sound survival strategy. It will set you up for failure. What you can do when you're well rested, just had a big feed, your hands aren't blistered, and you're at full peak performance is not the same as what you achieve after being on the run from an enemy group for 2 to 3 weeks. There is no way I can explain it to you any more efficiently as to why and what rationale is applied to the way I teach survival fire lighting in particular. So wherever possible, we end up with the basics of things being a ferro rod, fire steel, mesh metal rod, whatever you want to call it. Having some of these pre-positioned in our equipment and on our body is tantamount to making sure we've got a reliable method for lighting fire in survival situations. Finding tinder is one of those things that we can fairly reliably count on the environment we're in to provide us with. But let's look forward to what else is available in the marketplace. Now, a good friend of mine, Dennis at Survival Supplies Australia, has kindly forwarded to me these samples. These are made by an American manufacturer. This is called the Fat Rope Stick, and this is another variation of the same product by the same people, Fat Rope, and as you can see, it's literally a waterproof rope. Now, if we have a look inside, you'll see that it is essentially rope fibre. Ignore the cotton wool, that's what I add into everything. So it's rope fibre, and it is being coated in an accelerant. So we'll have a quick look at how effective this is and how that might be able to complement your fire lighting capability. Remember, you need to have multiple strategies to light fire reliably. So let's have a look at that now, and then we'll discuss that in terms of what this might potentially be able to give to you. Okay, so here are our products that we're looking at today. We're going to put this one aside for now, but basically the inside component of this cordage is the same as this stuff in the tin. You literally just cut the plastic protective liner away and twist it open, so you undo the layer of the cordage, and from there you just chop it up exactly the same way as we're going to break this up to access the fibres. So basic principles of fire lighting are abided by here. We're going to make the filaments of our particular fuel as surrounded by air as we possibly can. So I'm just going to pull that apart, and there's some great footage on their channel, as in Fat Rope's channel, about this exact process. So I'm just going to show it for you here in a different way. This is quite wet, everything here. I've built a small platform here to get us up off the ground. I'll add to that shortly. Buff that up like we do with a lot of other natural tinders. Twist all open. Get as much of that fibre material exposed to air as you can. It is coated throughout in an accelerant. So apparently it's a non-toxic product. So if you're used to working with things like petroleum jelly, that's probably a bonus. You need a reasonable quantity, like all tinder, to give you enough heat momentum to dry your next layer of moist kindling or tinder out. Alright, so that's what we end up with. So this is just 2 strands of that particular cordage. I might want to use a bit more. However, we'll see what happens with this level of material, this quantity of material. So I'm going to use a high grade fire steel. This is one pumped out by Dave Canterbury and his Pathfinder product range. That's great. I've used lower grade ferro rods with this material and it does work. It just takes a lot more of your ferro rod to actually kindle it into action. So just be aware of that. That's about the only thing I've noticed with this particular product. Everything else is all prepared, so I've got some more material, kindling and everything ready to go as you would with any other fire lighting methodology. Now I always light fire from the ground up. I've worked with a lot of indigenous folk around the world and that seems to be how they do things, as opposed to building some kind of crazy teepee, shoving the fire in the middle of it. Remember, it's me working with the fire, not me controlling the fire. I guide and manage it, but it tells me what it needs. So let's see how we go with our fire rod to get this going. And that's up and running. And we can continue to build our fire as per usual. Now that's going to burn quite fiercely, so it's going to generate a lot of heat momentum. So all this material I had scraped up off the damp soil. So by getting a little bit of oxygen like that and using this product, I'm actually giving it plenty of time to move from kindling to that next layer. And have the heat momentum drive the moisture in my material out. So we're working with the fire. If there's not enough oxygen or some other feedback from the fire, it tells me and I can continue to build my fire accordingly. So there you go. That is fat rope. Look, if you are not a confident firelighter or you just want to make sure you've got the edge, seriously give some consideration to adding things like that product to your survival equipment list. Don't ever have a hinge approach to it, i.e. you have to have this to get the fire lit. That's not a sound strategy for survival. Make sure you've got depth of understanding of numerous ways to light fire and to achieve all the other basic life support requirements. Otherwise you will set yourself up for failure. Make sure you utilize stuff like this the way it's designed to be used. That is to enhance your ability to light fire when conditions are wet. And we broke all the rules today. We picked up damp material, leaf litter, straight off the ground. We didn't take anything from any dry source, up in trees, around the base of trees, anything. We just grabbed it straight off the wet ground. And this was still had enough heat momentum to generate sufficient moisture driving out potential to get that stuff to kindle. And the fire burned just great. So the proof is in the pudding. That's what this type of thing is used for. I'd like to thank Dennis, particularly at Survival Supplies Australia, for throwing that through to me to have a look at. I find people sometimes need those extra little bits of gear to make them feel that little bit more confident. But just don't ever cross that line of becoming complacent and reliant upon one thing or another. So, let's leave it there. Get out, have a look around, re-examine your gear and work out what you actually can and can't do when the chips are down and it's bucketing down with rain and you need a fire lit.